What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the Daytona 500 Draftkings lineup strategy. We're going to get into how to build lineups for Daytona because it's a lot different than a lot of other races, whether you're new here, new to NASCAR DFS, or if you've been playing NASCAR DFS for a while and don't really understand how to make lineups for Daytona. It is a lot different, so we are going to get into all of that. But before I do, if you're new here, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to that channel. It really helps me grow. We had a lot of growth throughout last season in NASCAR, and I want to continue that this year. If you want to get more of my content, you can always subscribe to my Patreon right now. It's only $10 a month. You're going to get a spreadsheet with all the stats you need to know for, it's going to come with team stats, driver stats, average positions, literally everything you can think of, as well as DFS projections. You're also going to get every single pass optimal lineup, and you're going to get the averages for optimal lineups for every single race for the season, which is what you can see right here by track type and the exact type of track. As well as a driver breakdown every single slate for based on what the drivers need to do to pay off their salary. If it's realistic, if they can get that, plus rankings and a cash core. So be sure to check that out as well. Put the link in my bio, or the link down below. Gosh. And then I've also partnered with America DFS in the Discord to be their content provider to talk about DFS in the Discord. So I'll put the link down there below. Just going to have a lot of conversations about DraftKings for only NASCAR over there every single week, just discussing the slate, going over things. So be sure to hit that as well. Join that community. It's a nice little community. So I'll put the link down there as well. But that's really all I got to say. This is going to be a quick little video just on strategy for Daytona. So restrictor plate tracks are a complete different animal on its own. So if you don't know what Daytona and Talladega are, they're two tracks where they run. It's not really restrictor plates anymore. They do something else to them, but it's the same idea. And you basically have a pack the whole race. Like, there's not the single file rate. There's not like just breaking out, one car breaks out ahead for the whole race. Like, no, everybody's in a pack all the time. There's going to be different guys up front all the time. There's going to be probably 20 different lap leaders in this race. So that's going to make Dominator points really not that important for this race. They can be, but for the most part, it's not really that often that happens. And in these races, there is what is known as the big one, which is the massive crash that is going to take out over half the field probably. And that happens just about every single race. Yeah, there's going to be a few times where that does not happen, but for the most part, that has happened every single race. So last year's Talladega race, that did not happen, but still, for the most part, that does happen. So you're going to want to do this strategy called stacking the back. Now, I think a lot of people know stacking the back nowadays. That's just something that has been the drum has been beat really hard that this is what you need to do at Daytona and Talladega. You need to play drivers from the back. But now the thing that a lot of people do is to only play drivers from the back. And while I do think that is a sound strategy in cash lineups, which I would 100% do in cash, in tournaments, I don't know if that's the way to win a GPP. Because this is what we're going to look at is past optimal lineups, you do not have 100% of the drivers starting all the way in the back. Now, you can divide this up however you want. I like to divide it up as drivers starting inside the top 12, drivers starting 13 to 25, and drivers starting 26 on back. This is how I personally like to split it up. Other people can split it up just top half and bottom half, but I prefer to narrow it down a little bit more. That's just how I like to do it. I don't think there's really one correct way to do it, but this is how I like to look at it. Top 12, 13, 25, and 26 up. I've had pretty good success with this trio right here. It just kind of splits the field into pretty much about thirds right there. So at restrictor plates overall, we've seen, and this is the last 3 years optimal lineups minus 2019 Summer Daytona, when that race, everybody wrecked. There was a big wreck. Everyone came down pit road, and then under caution, it started raining. Race was over, and it was just like the top 5 were like guys who don't run well. So I don't really like to include that race. It's past 11 restrictor plate tracks. We've had an average of 1.18 drivers start in the top 12, finishing inside the optimal lineup. We've had an average of 1.9 drivers starting between 13 and 25, average in the optimal lineup, an average of 2.9 starting from 26 up in the optimal lineup. And on Daytona, when we go to just Daytona, because Daytona and Talladega, yeah, they're really similar, but they're still a little bit different. The Daytona 500 is kind of just a crazy race in general because it's the Daytona 500, it's the biggest race of the year outside championship, so this race is kind of always a little bit more wild. We've only had on average 0.8 drivers starting inside the top 12 at Daytona in every single optimal lineup, an average of 1.8 drivers starting between 13 and 25 in every optimal lineup, and an average of 3.4 drivers starting 26 on back at Daytona. So we do see a little bit of the difference there. And then when you average them out combined, it's going to be an average of just about one driver inside the top 12, 1.87 inside or between 13 and 25, and about 3 drivers from 26 on back. Now, there is 6 drivers in the lineup, as you can see, so 3 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 5. So that's where I think you get a little bit of leeway. I would say probably to go with someone in the 13-25 range or the 26 on up range. I would really doubt that it's going to be another driver inside the top 12 when you're making your lineups, but that is how I'd like to look at lineups. It is really important to stack the back because there are going to be wrecks. All the drivers, there will be a wreck. There will be a big wreck. Like, yeah, you're going to be sitting there for probably over half the race. You're going to say, oh my God, my lineups are doing terrible. All my guys are in the back. Yeah, just wait till the last 10 laps when everybody crashes and all those guys in the back just move up and they don't get involved in wrecks. When you have such a volatile race, when there's not as many dominator points aren't as necessary, these guys in the back are going to be the highest floor plays. The other thing I want to say is, you don't just pay attention when you're playing the guys in the back. Don't just pay attention to the really known popular cars that are starting in the back. Like, you're gonna have guys like the Rick Ware Racing cars. Maybe Noah Gragson this week, although he's really cheap on DraftKings, I will say. There's just guys that are gonna be starting in the back that are going to be lower owned than normal, and we need to. Why not play those guys? Like, we've seen, I think Brendan Poole in the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing last year. He ended up in an optimal lineup because, and nobody played him. He was like 5% owned. I remember I played him that day. I didn't end with the optimal. That was at Talladega. But he did end up doing really well. And these lower owned guys have just as much upside in this race because they just stay out of trouble. So don't be scared to play some of the guys you maybe aren't as familiar with or not as familiar with their team. I will go over those players, obviously, in the Daytona 500 video on Friday, but don't be scared to play those guys, because there's going to be guys that start in the back. We saw last year Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was just ultra chalk starting in the back, which, I mean, yeah, great. He's a good play, but don't worry about just the individual drivers. Play the positions. That's why I like to pay attention to this. I kind of just don't even look at the drivers. Don't worry about salary. You don't have to fill your salary. That's not important for these tracks. Almost all these optimal lines weren't even close to filling out salary, and usually the winning lineup isn't going to have the filling out salary either in your tournaments, so be sure to look after that. So in cash, I would say just go 100% from stacking to back. If you're playing a cash lineup, just play all the guys probably from 26 on back. That's it. Only play those guys. If you're playing tournaments, I'm liking to mix it up a little bit. I still like to get probably 3 guys starting in 26 on back. Definitely 1 guy in the 13-25 range and 1 in the top 12. And then honestly, it depends. I probably prefer to go, honestly, if a 4th guy starting 26 on back. That's just the way I like it, but 13-25 range is really good as well. If you're playing a lot of lines, I'm going to be playing a ton of lines at Daytona on Sunday. I'm going to have a mix of both. So I probably won't have any. I probably will set the rule on Fantasy Cruncher to only 1 inside the top 12, but at least 1 13-25 and at least 3 from 26 on up, and then let Fantasy Cruncher fill in that last spot for me, with projections and everything. So I think that's really all I got to say on this. It was a quick little video. I just wanted to get in some Daytona 500 strategy because I know that is very important. I don't want people going out there acting like it's a normal race, throwing out 4 guys starting in the top 10, saying, "Oh, Denny Hamlin's so good at Daytona, he's going to lead a ton of laps." Like, no, don't go after that. We don't want that. You're at the end. You might be cashing most of the race, but at the end of the race, you're going to be in last. So don't do that. But yeah, I think that's really all I got to say. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe on this channel, and have a great rest of your day.